It started off like any other random Instagram live. Just two quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, hopping on a talk shop, connect with fans, maybe shoot the breeze before preseason kicked into high gear. But within 10 minutes, it turned into something else entirely. No flashy intro, no PR filters, no handlers in the background telling them to wrap it up. Just two young quarterbacks, both fighting for relevance in a brutally competitive league, face-to-face on the world's most unfiltered stage. And by the time it ended, only one man walked away with his reputation intact. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Spoiler, it wasn't Dillon Gabriel. It began casual, calculatedly casual. If you were paying attention, Shedeur opened the stream on his own. No caption, just a tight camera angle and the sound of distant cleats on concrete in the background. No music, no filters, just vibes. The comments were already rolling in at warp speed. QB1 energy, DG duck the fade. This gonna get messy, FR. And then, like clockwork, Dillon Gabriel joined the stream. Polite smiles, quick greetings, surface-level bro energy. But if you've ever watched a locker room feud simmer just beneath the surface, you could feel it. The tension wasn't spoken. It was baked into every pause, every overly polite response, every little smile that didn't quite reach the eyes. "So, you trying to talk football?" Shedeur said, voice steady, almost amused. "Or you trying to talk facts?" Gabriel laughed, a little too loud, a little too forced. And just like that, it was game time. What followed wasn't a rant. It wasn't a meltdown. It was something much more surgical, a digital dissection. Shedeur Sanders, calm as ever, took control of the stream like he was running a 2-minute drill. One by one, he laid out receipts, stat lines from practice, misreads on tape, little moments from camp that, when presented in sequence, painted a clear picture. Dillon Gabriel wasn't just struggling. He was cracking under pressure. Shedeur didn't yell. He didn't even raise his voice. Instead, he let the facts speak. "Remember that day in red zone install?" he asked, coolly. "You threw that pick to flat because you didn't check the safety rotation. I told you that in the huddle, bro. You said, and I quote, 'It's not that serious. It's just practice.'" Gabriel tried to cut in. "We were trying new looks. Coach said it was okay to test." But Shedeur waved it off. "Nah. See, that's what I mean. You got excuses. I got execution." The chat was losing its mind. Fire emojis. Eye emojis. People screen recording like their lives depended on it. And then the real body blow came. Shedeur leaned in a bit closer to the camera. Still calm. Still surgical. "You told the trainers I got in your face after that drive. Said there was some physical thing. Wanted to drop the facility footage. Or, you gonna walk that back right now?" That moment, that was the end of the debate. Dillon froze. Blinked a few times. Gave a weak. "Man, it wasn't like that. I was just saying how it felt." Shedeur didn't even react. Just let the silence hang in the air. "You felt embarrassed," he finally said. "That's what you felt. Don't rewrite it." The chat exploded. Gabriel had nothing. No comeback. No receipts. Just the unmistakable look of a guy who had just been digitally dismantled in front of a live audience. Because that's what this was. Not a rant. Not a meltdown. It was a masterclass in control. And in that moment, Shedeur proved something bigger than, "I'm better than you on the field." He proved he understands the game off the field, too. This wasn't just about who threw better passes or who had a cleaner pocket presence. This was about narrative control, about image, about how you win the room, whether it's in the locker room or on live. And Shedeur, he won the room. Every time Dillon tried to play the "but I've been grinding" too card, Shedeur calmly reminded him, with timestamps, of the times he bailed early through tantrums or skipped film study for brand meetings. Every time Dillon tried to lean into the veteran experience angle, Shedeur reminded him that experience doesn't matter if you keep making rookie mistakes. And maybe most crucially, Every time Dillon tried to bait Shedeur into emotional territory, Shedeur stayed cool. You want to talk legacy? Dillon snapped at one point. You were born into one. I had to earn everything. Shedeur nodded. You're right. I was born with a name. But I'm not hiding behind it. You're hiding behind the idea that you're owed something for trying. That was the kill shot. The comments weren't just Team Shedeur now. They were slaughtering Gabriel. You could almost feel the sports media scrambling for screen captures, turning quotes into tweets, working on think pieces before the stream even ended. And through it all, Shedeur stayed calm, almost serene, because this wasn't personal for him. It was strategic. It wasn't just about ego. It was about setting the tone. The NFL isn't just a league of arm talent anymore. It's a league of narratives. Who controls the room? Who controls the mic? Who controls the moment? And in this era of media-savvy athletes, Shedeur Sanders is the blueprint. He didn't rant. He didn't whine. He presented facts like a prosecutor, delivered lines like a media coach, and left no blood on his own hands. It was brutal, but it was clean. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel, he fumbled his moment, not on the field, but online, where today's athletes live and die by public perception. He walked into the live thinking it was going to be a sparring match. He said, about training camp tension. Instead, he got dragged into a chess match and never even realized he was playing. By the time the stream ended, Gabriel was visibly shaken. Short answers, repeating himself, checking his phone like he was hoping someone would call and bail him out. But no one did. And Shedeur? He smiled once, just barely, and ended the stream like nothing had happened. Appreciate the chat, he said. Hope y'all got what you needed. End stream. Just like that, the digital mic drop heard around the sports world. It wasn't about drama. It wasn't even about ego. It was about power. And Shedeur Sanders? He just showed everyone that in 2025, the most dangerous quarterback isn't just the one who can throw a deep out on 3rd and 10. It's the one who can own the room, control the feed, and burn your credibility without ever raising his voice. The live stream was over, but the shock waves were just beginning. Within minutes of Shedeur Sanders ending the broadcast, sports Twitter had already exploded. Shedeur just ended a man's career on IG Live. One tweet read. Another said, Dillon Gabriel better end a portal, and I don't mean transfer. Analysts clipped the footage. Fan pages turned it into reels. Sports blogs scrambled to churn out reaction articles with headlines like, Shedeur Sanders just proved he's the alpha QB in Cleveland, and the NFL knows it. Inside the Browns facility, silence. Not because nobody was watching, but because everybody was. Phones buzzed nonstop. Assistants exchanged glances in hallways. Position coaches huddled inside offices, whispering like the building was bugged. Even GM Andrew Berry, usually calm and measured, was reportedly taking calls and issuing reminders about professionalism. But really, the damage, or, depending on your perspective, the revelation, had already been done. Shedeur didn't just clap back. He didn't just win a petty argument. He flipped the entire quarterback power structure in real time. And he did it by following one rule: don't flinch. While Dillon Gabriel stumbled through half-formed comebacks and transparent deflections, Shedeur stood there like a granite statue. Calm, steady, efficient, the same way he plays in the pocket, the same way he handles post-game interviews, the same way he approaches a 3rd and long with the game on the line. It's not flash, it's control. And that's the part everyone watching seemed to pick up on, fans, analysts, and teammates alike. Because leadership isn't just about talent anymore. It's about composure. And Shedeur just put on a masterclass in it. Let's not gloss over the fact that this wasn't some press conference where a media handler could step in. This wasn't filtered, edited, or managed. This was raw, real-time pressure, a trap disguised as a conversation. Dillon Gabriel thought he could flip the narrative, that he could use the platform to earn sympathy, maybe sway public perception back in his favor. After all, Shedeur had been getting all the buzz since camp started. The media frenzy, the fan attention, the rising stock in the locker room, it had all shifted and Dillon knew it. This was his moment to reclaim space. But instead, he walked straight into a buzzsaw. Because here's the thing about Shedeur. He doesn't waste movement. Not on the field. Not in interviews. Not in life. Every word he said during that live was deliberate, targeted, efficient. And the deeper it got, the clearer it became. He wasn't playing defense. He was leading an offensive drive. One that didn't need touchdowns to finish. Just clarity. Just truth. And once he put that truth on the table, receipts, timestamps, factual breakdowns, there was nowhere for Dillon to hide. Because while Dillon tried to speak in generalities, Shedeur brought details. While Dillon leaned on emotion, Shedeur leaned on documentation. "I'm not here to argue," he said at one point, when Gabriel raised his voice. "I'm here to clarify." That's what leaders do. And that right there, that's when you felt the room shift. Because for months, the quarterback battle in Cleveland had been portrayed as close. Flacco had experience. Gabriel had grit. Shedeur had potential. It was anyone's game. That was the company line. That was what fans were told to believe. But this live stream, it was the equivalent of Shedeur looking into the camera and saying, "I'm already the guy." They just haven't said it out loud yet. And what could the Browns do about it? Nothing, because they couldn't deny the facts. They couldn't erase the footage. They couldn't suddenly pretend Shedeur's performance in camp hadn't been cleaner, sharper, more mature. And now, with the core of public opinion siding with Sanders, they couldn't stall much longer either. The pressure was now external. Reporters were flooding the Browns' media team with interview requests. TV networks began pre-editing graphics with Shedeur in QB1 mock-ups. Talk shows ran split screens of his preseason highlights in Dillon's most awkward live-stream freeze frame. And perhaps most damning of all, Shedeur didn't gloat. No Instagram story follow-up. No cryptic subtweets. No locker room smirks. He showed up the next day to practice early, quietly ran his reps, encouraged his teammates, and left to the back to avoid attention. Because he didn't need to spike the football. He'd already crossed the goal line. That's what separates him. Not just his ability to throw or read defenses, but his understanding of narrative timing. He didn't get emotional. He got exact. And in doing so, he redefined the quarterback archetype for Browns, and maybe even the NFL at large. Think about it. We're witnessing the evolution of quarterback culture. Gone are the days where QBs just stood behind podiums and said, "We're taking it 1 week at a time." Today's quarterbacks are brand managers, tone setters, cultural leaders. And Shedeur Sanders? He might be the most modern of them all. He knows how to own the moment without hijacking it. He knows when to let his voice be loud and when to let his discipline be louder. Compare that to Gabriel. In the span of one Instagram live, he lost the one thing no quarterback can afford to lose, mystique. The idea that you might be that guy, the belief that even when you're struggling, you're still worth investing in. Gabriel didn't just look like the lesser quarterback. He looked like the less prepared man. And that's what crushed him, because football is unforgiving. And in a world where practice reps, fan loyalty, and media coverage can pivot on one moment, you better know when to speak. And when to stay silent. Gabriel, he talked too much. Shedeur, he said just enough. And now, the Browns are staring down a decision they tried to delay. Do they follow the politics of depth charts or the power of performance? Because the team knows, the city knows, the league knows. Shedeur is ready. And he didn't need a season of garbage time reps to prove it. He needed one viral masterclass in command, accountability, and clarity. It wasn't just an Instagram live. It was a public coronation. And now that the crown has been placed, there's only one thing left to do. Hand over the throne. Here's where the story gets even more complicated. And honestly, even more fascinating. The moment Shedeur Sanders clicked that red end button on Instagram live, the football world split into two camps. Those who saw a quarterback standing up for himself and reshaping a narrative, and those who saw a rookie stepping out of line. And that second group? Oh, they're loud. They're the old guard. The anonymous execs whispering to insiders about how this kind of behavior wouldn't fly in their locker room. They're the coaches clinging to the idea that quarterbacks should be quiet, obedient, and earn it the traditional way. To them, what Shedeur did wasn't strength. It was disruption. And in that way, this wasn't just a takedown of Dillon Gabriel. It was a takedown of an entire outdated culture. Because what Shedeur did wasn't about drama. It was about establishing boundaries. Let's be clear. He didn't come for Dillon out of nowhere. This had been building. Quietly. A dozen sideline whispers. Some sneaky shade in interviews. A few comments from Gabriel's camp about real leaders not needing cameras. It was petty. It was calculated. It was typical competition-fueled tension. But Shedeur didn't fire back then. He waited until he had the platform, the proof, and the poise to use both like weapons. And that's what makes this a generational shift, not just a personal one. Because Shedeur didn't just beat Dillon with facts. He outplayed the system. He knew that in 2025, public opinion is no longer shaped in press conferences. It's shaped in moments, on streams, on stories, on platforms where the player controls the mic, not the PR team. And Shedeur, he didn't just control the mic, he owned it. That's the part the old guard can't wrap their heads around. To them, being QB1 means following the path laid before you. You wait your turn. You bite your tongue. You earn your respect behind closed doors. But to Shedeur, being QB1 means knowing how to win every room you walk into, including the digital ones. The moment that live ended, the Browns fan base changed, not just in perception, but in expectation. They didn't just see a strong performance. They saw a leader, a man unafraid to stand firm, stay calm, and challenge someone without stooping to his level. That's rare. That's powerful. And that's the exact type of person you want commanding a huddle when the stadium's deafening and the season's on the line. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel, he didn't just lose the argument. He lost the benefit of the doubt. He exposed himself, not by being emotional, but by being unprepared. He came to the live hoping for sympathy, hoping to sway a few fans back, hoping to remind people he still belonged. Instead, he reminded everyone why Shedeur is rising and why he's not. And here's where things get truly brutal. The fallout from that moment is real. Internally, coaches now have to reassess. They can't just shuffle Gabriel into a QB2 role without raising eyebrows. Because the second he steps on the field now, the comparisons will be inescapable. The pressure? Immense. The spotlight? Unforgiving. And what about the locker room? That's the real test. See, NFL locker rooms aren't always friendly to players who go public, but they respect players who speak truth. And make no mistake, plenty of guys inside that building knew exactly what was happening between Shedeur and Gabriel. They saw it in practice. They heard the gossip. They watched the petty energy bubble up. So when Shedeur aired it all out with receipts and grace, it landed. Veterans nodded. Rookies watched and learned. And suddenly, Shedeur wasn't just a kid with a famous last name. He was a guy who could handle himself under pressure, on and off the field. The very traits that win you football games are the same ones that just won in the locker room. And this is the part fans outside Cleveland might not fully understand. This moment, it didn't divide the Browns. It galvanized them. Because quarterbacks don't just throw passes. They set tones. And Shedeur just made it very clear what kind of tone he's going to set. No nonsense. No passive aggression. Just clarity, calm, and confidence. Whether it's in a fourth quarter 2-minute drill or on a random Tuesday night Instagram live. Now let's talk ripple effects. Teams around the league watched that exchange. Young QBs watched it. Veterans watched it. Front offices watched it. And some of them, they took notes. Because in today's league, where media image is as powerful as red zone efficiency, Shedeur showed the template for how to balance branding, leadership, and maturity. He didn't trash his teammate. He didn't go full scorched earth. He just told the truth and did it better. That kind of clarity is marketable. It's influential. It's future franchise QB stuff. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel's brand, well, it took a direct hit. His fans? Quieter. His teammates? Distant. His reps in practice? Shorter. Because after a moment like that, there's no pretending. Everyone knows what happened. Everyone saw who looked ready and who looked rattled. And once that impression is made, It's almost impossible to undo. So now the Browns face an unspoken decision. Do they lean into the future and build around the guy who just demonstrated real-time poise under fire? Or do they drag their feet, pretend nothing happened, and risk alienating the very fans and teammates who just watched their QB1 reveal himself online? It's not just about football anymore. It's about credibility, trust, momentum, and Shedeur, he's got all three. Which brings us to the big picture. This wasn't just a viral moment. This was a cultural shift, a changing of the guard, a live-streamed revolution where the quiet, gritty quarterback who'd been treated like a backup option became the centerpiece of a new era. No logos, no sponsors, no press team, just truth, straight from the source. And as history has shown us in sports, once a player seizes a narrative, it's theirs forever. So the Browns can try to delay the inevitable. They can try to restore order, reshuffle the chart, or issue press statements about team unity. But what they can't do, undo what the world just saw. And what the world saw was this. Shedeur Sanders is ready. He's not just playing the game. He's already winning it.